Guys, we have people here on YouTube and on social media giving their thoughts and remembering, the fond memories of The Undertaker and the 30 years that he's been in WWE. We have people like the Schleg Daddy, Jeff Shigo at OTRI Central, who is dedicating 30 days of videos to the career of The Undertaker. We have Alex, just Alex, formerly Deluxe Man, on his channel, preparing to do a video or two or a few on The Undertaker. And you have people like Monster, I think, is going to be doing something, and a few others as well. Um, as for me, being a fan growing up with The Undertaker, I remember watching him debut at the Survivor Series. Of course, I had to wait till it came on VHS, on Coliseum Video, if you will, to see it. But I do remember, watching him debut. What's funny about that is I remember actually flipping through channels like a month or two prior and seeing him as Mean Mark competing. I think it was on one of the WCW syndicated programs, and it took me a bit when I saw him competing at Survivor Series, if not a little afterwards, to realize, hey, this is the guy I saw prior in that other promotion. So, for me, I kind of had a glimpse of him before he even went to WWF. But ever since then, though, it's like, this guy just, became the franchise player of World Wrestling Entertainment, of World Wrestling Federation. It's like, when you think WWF, usually you think Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior. No, this guy, or even Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, or nowadays John Cena, Austin, Roman Reigns, Rock, Triple H, the list could go on. Mick Foley, Mankind, Kane, all these big names, Brock Lesnar. But the one name that stands above them all is The Undertaker, because he's been there for 30 years. 30 straight years. I mean, yes, he's had to take time off for injuries and all that, or he wanted to take some time away to be with family, to spend some time on his own. But this guy had been with the company for 30 years straight. I mean, when you think about it, I was only about 11 years old. I was 4 months removed from my birthday when he debuted in WWF. And like I said, I was 11 years old at that time. I was in fifth grade. So that tells you how how old I am when compared to the 30 years this guy's been in the company. But I can't honestly say much about the Undertaker. That other fans like the Schleg Daddy and Monster and Don Tony and Kevin Castle and JD from NY206 and many have said about the Undertaker, along with those in the business have said about him, because this guy's resume speaks for itself. I mean, the list of people he's gone up against is a who's who in professional wrestling, and not just gone up against, but beat. It's a who's who. He's beaten the likes of Hogan. He's beaten the likes of Flair. He's beaten the likes, believe it or not, of Warrior, of Ultimate Warrior. He's beaten the likes of John Cena, Roman Reigns, The Rock, Triple H, Austin. He's beaten them all. And most times they've been for championships. I mean, he beat Batista, Dave Batista, for the world title at WrestleMania 23, and what many consider as one of the better WrestleMania matches out there in recent memory. And so, so for me, when I look at The Undertaker, I have so many fond memories myself. I mean, I was fortunate enough, I should say, to see him in person back in 2003. I mean, I saw him during the tail end of his Big Evil / American Badass persona before he went back to the Deadman persona, or he went to, more precisely, he went to a hybrid persona of the Deadman and the American Badass, which later morphed into a three-way hybrid persona of Deadman, American Badass, and Ministry of Darkness Taker. So I was fortunate enough to see him in person. It was at the Kemper Arena, and he took on A-Train. He took on A-Train in the match, and I was in the second row. What's eerie about it, though, and I don't want to divert from the topic of this video, is I was in the second row. I was like right here, and over here to my left was the area where Owen Hart had fallen. So I was in that vicinity. And when I looked up, I mean, I remember sitting there and looking up and realizing where my seating was and going like, hey, this is the area where Owen fell. So, yeah, that was kind of eerie. But, aside the fact, um, aside that fact, and God rest Owen Hart, um, I was very fortunate to see the Undertaker in person. I was very fortunate to see him. And this is on the. And here's the thing: on this same card was Eddie Guerrero. 2 years prior to his passing, and Chris Benoit 3 years before what he did, or 4 years prior to what he did. So, yeah, it was a stacked card. I mean, it was headlined by Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, and The Big Show for the WWE Championship. So, like I said, I was very, very fortunate, like I said, to see The Undertaker in person, even if it was during his Big Evil run or the tail end of it. But, besides that, The Undertaker to me is always going to be one of those superstars, legends, future Hall of Famers that, when you think of some of the most, unforgettable moments in this company's history, he's right at the top. I mean, of course, the number one unforgettable moment people are going to align him with is when he threw Mick Foley, Mankind, off the Hell in the Cell at King of the Ring in '98. So it's like, that's a moment. That is a moment. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Now, in the mid to late '90s, I was living, I should say, in Oskaloosa, Kansas, and the only way I was ever able to keep up with WWF was through the syndicated program, or syndicated programming, I should say, due to the fact that the cable company that my dad had cable through did not have USA Network. They did not provide USA Network until years after I moved out of Oskaloosa and into Lawrence, Kansas. They never provided, like I say, any USA Network programming or the USA Network channel. So I ended up having to pay attention to WWE or keep tabs with them through the syndicated programming and the WWF magazines. That was the only way. And when they did the pilot for SmackDown in the spring of '99, I basically got a full-fledged taste of what we were in store, of what was going on, with Raw and everything through that pilot. I mean, this was the pilot on SmackDown in which we saw The Undertaker and Shane McMahon unite both of the factions into the corporate ministry. So it was that very pilot. So I was able to watch that when it happened. Like I said, I was very fortunate to watch that when it happened. But yeah, a lot of the moments that are unforgettable are aligned with Taker. I mean, his ascension into the heavens, if you will, at Royal Rumble '94 was great. Him setting up and shocking Kamala the way he did, at the end of the match at SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium. I mean, these are all unforgettable moments. I mean, what always got to me, and I don't know if this was racist on Vince's part or what, but he always made people like Kamala and Yokozuna and King Mabel, Men on a Mission, Viscera, if you will, Big Daddy V, Nelson Knight. He always made them terrified of the Undertaker, like there was some. I mean, it's like Kamala, the way he was presented, you could understand. Yokozuna, on the other hand, you would think he's being presented as this sumo champion, he shouldn't be afraid of anything, and yet he's acting like he's acting like he's and I say this with all due respect to Rodney to Rodney, because that was his name, Rodney Honora. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. But with all due respect, God rest his soul, to Yokozuna, I should say. They made him act like he was a primitive that didn't know much about society, didn't know much about, the modern world, and couldn't comprehend things like the Undertaker acting the way he did. So, again, I don't know if it was racist on Vince McMahon's part to have the likes of Kamala and Mabel and Yokozuna do that. But one thing it did do, and I say this with all due respect, no offense, it did bring a smile and a grin to a lot of people's face. Because, they were getting a kick out of how all these opponents, these big men opponents, after Giant Gonzalez, El Gigante, were like, oh my God, what is this guy? Ah! They were just freaked out. And honestly, if I was in the position and I saw somebody like that in real life, I'd be freaked out too. But again, it's these kind of moments that you remember about Taker. And, it's in all his other rivalries he had. You look at these memories and you say to yourself, there is never going to be another Undertaker. There's never going to be another Deadman. There's never going to be another big evil American badass, whatever you want to call him. There's never going to be overall another Phenom. And speaking of Phenom, you know how he got that name? He got that name when he squashed Superfly Jimmy Snuka. When he squashed Superfly Jimmy Snuka, he got that name, the Phenom, by beating him, because Superfly was always considered a Phenom in his own right. So, yeah, the Undertaker, again, there will never be another like him. There will never be another like him. And like I said, I'm a fan. I've been a fan of his for as long as he's been in WWF. And yes, there was a part of me at one point that thought, with all the people jumping ship from World Wrestling Federation to WCW, there was a part of me back in late '99 that thought he would be next. I mean, the fact that, the last time we saw him in WWF television was confronting Vince McMahon and saying, hey, maybe I won't do anything around here anymore. You would think with a lot of these jumps happening that, what he said there could be legit, and that the next time we would see him would be in World Championship Wrestling. I mean, if you listen to the various stories out there from the likes of Kevin Nash, from the likes of, Eric Bischoff, from the likes of Hogan, from the likes of even Taker, I think, or anybody close to him, there was discussion of bringing Taker in as Mark Calloway into WCW as what he would be later on in WWF, an American badass. The motorcyclist Taker, but under his real persona, his real name. Now, yeah, people would know who he is, but thankfully, a lot of people that bring this up kind of state that maybe it was good that he didn't go and make that jump, because even though people would know who he is, how would they treat him? Would they treat him like The Undertaker, but under his real persona? Or would he be a victim of being lost in the shuffle? Nobody really knew. And I think Taker knew that himself. So thankfully that didn't happen, despite what you believe when it comes to the rumors and the sources. Overall, for me, when it comes to The Undertaker, there's never going to be another like him. I mean, when he came back as the American badass, Big Evil Taker, the way they promoted his return, his rejuvenation, his rebootness, if you will, was by putting out the This Is My Yard VHS, which I ended up getting. I still have it in the garage. So, and I watched that. When I first got it home, I watched it from beginning to end, and I enjoyed it. Because that was the first time you ever saw Taker, kind of blending both his real life persona and who he would be later on. Because they did, I believe, touch upon his days in WCW. So, that was like one of the first times you got to see that. And now you get to see it a lot more because he's got more time on his hands. He's not competing as much, if at all, anymore. So, yeah, I remember watching that from beginning to end and getting a kick out of it and enjoying it. And again, you got to give this guy a lot of credit because they put him through a lot of stuff that even he felt was unnecessary. He didn't want to do. I mean, put him in the ring again, like I said, with the likes of Mabel and and Kamala. I mean, Kamala, I can understand. Mabel, maybe not as much because even he felt Mabel was too, maybe not ready yet for that position. Stuff like that. But there were a lot of people they put him in the ring with, and some of them could have potentially been some good opponents for him if given the right storyline and angles. But some of the stuff they gave him, even Taker has admitted, was pure crap. I mean, DDP as the stalker, Diamond Dallas Page as the stalker of Undertaker's then wife, Sarah. I mean, honestly, come on, why would you do that? That's dumb. And the fact that you made Dallas Page, look inferior to Undertaker. When this is a guy that, if given the right storyline and angle, could have given Taker a run for his money. Some great storyline, some great angles. And if that's not enough, I recently watched the story, basically the Paul Bearer story, the story of Mortician on WWE Network, which I recommend you guys check out. And even Taker at first thought, the whole thing with CM Punk and Paul Heyman and them, mocking Paul Bearer and that storyline after William Moody's passing, he thought, nah, this is too far, this is too distasteful. But then he started to realize, wait a minute, even though it's distasteful, this is something that William Moody, Paul Bearer would want. And they ran with it. And mainly because of the fact that realizing this is something Paul Bearer would want, it showed a lot of respect to him because he was the center point of a co-main event at WrestleMania. So it was, even though Taker felt it was distasteful, it was like, yeah, this, even though it's distasteful, it is something that Paul Bearer, William Moody would go for. Basically, be like, hey, you guys really want to remember me, do this. Do it. So, there was stuff even he didn't like. He didn't care for. And, honestly, I don't think, as fans, we can blame him. I don't think we can. But in the end, though, like I said, there's never going to be another Undertaker. Never. There will never be another Undertaker. I mean, how many superstars, man or woman, get the kind of reaction, the kind of pop that he gets every time you hear the gong, gong, and then you hear the music start up? How many people get that reaction? How many? Not many. Not some of the superstars today, and not some of the superstars, legends, Hall of Famers of the past that come in once in a while. Nobody gets that kind of reaction. And he does. Whether he's playing a babyface, a heel, a tweener, it doesn't matter. Nobody gets, that kind of reaction. Nobody. And in my opinion, nobody ever will. Even if Survivor Series, which some people doubt, is the final farewell of the Deadman, according to WWE, which a lot of people, like I said, doubt it will be. Even if it is, there never will be anybody that could, match what the Undertaker has done. Nobody. I mean, I know they're trying to build up the Fiend to probably be the next Deadman, the next Undertaker, the next Phenom. But guess what? If you're going to do that, then you need to have The Undertaker on camera in his own unique way pass the torch and the title of Phenom to The Fiend. That's the only way, because, yeah, people are behind The Fiend. They like him. But the thing is, the only way he's going to be another Undertaker or be that new Phenom is if you have him be past that torch. And we don't know if that's going to happen or not. And if it isn't, then yeah, it's going to be a lot more harder for Bray Wyatt to get the Fiend character over than it already is to get to that level. But, you know, like I said, even if Survivor Series is the final farewell, you know, like I said, which some people doubt, again, there will never be another Deadman. There will never be another Undertaker. There will never be another superstar, in my opinion, that will get the reaction that this guy has gotten from day one. The moment he was introduced as the mystery partner of Ted DiBiase's team in 1990 at Survivor Series, the reaction people gave him, and you saw the camera span the crowd, you saw the reaction of people, like, they saw this guy and they're like, what in the world is this? You know, who is this? You know, this is different. Nobody. And ever since then, he's gotten a reaction similar, if not more ambient than that, you know, in the 30 years that would follow. And nobody is ever going to match that. Nobody. But yeah, my memories of The Undertaker, you know, again, there will never be another like him. There will never be another like him. And, you know, pray and, you know, just, you know, pray and hope he has a good, healthy life after, you know, he finally hangs it up and rides into the sunset, you know, and, you know, spends the rest of his life with his family, with his children, with Michelle McCool, his wife. Because honestly, after everything he's gone through in the 30 years in this business, after everything she's gone through in this business, as well as even outside of the business with what she's gone through health-wise and physically, you know, they deserve, you know, a happy ending. They deserve, you know, their break from the world, if you know what I mean. So, all I can say in the end is, if this is the end, if this is it for The Undertaker, all I can say is thank you, Mark Calloway. Thank you, Undertaker, for the 30 years you've given us as fans. You will never be forgotten. There will never be another like you. And if you do come around on occasions, there's no doubt that people will welcome you with open arms. But if this is it again, Mark Calloway, Undertaker, thank you for 30 years of memories. You will not be forgotten. You are definitely, in my opinion, the franchise, the face of WWE, no matter what people say. So, that's about it, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on The Undertaker. What are your fond memories of him? And that's about all I can say, guys. So, till next time, God bless. Take care. I am out.